In absentia, Vice President of Costa Rica, distinguished permanent representatives, ambassadors past and present, several past ones here, it's good to see them, and outgoing Undersecretary General Fumzila, it was great to see her presentation. Let me begin by thanking Jibril Jerejef. Very grateful for your efforts and bringing us together for this. I'm going to introduce briefly the Executive Director of UN Habitat, Maimunah Sharif. But before doing so, I just wanted to provide briefly some context to her presentation. She is the Executive Director of the United Nations Human Settlements Program, UN Habitat. And for her and for all of us working with UN Habitat, we recognize that this red card we may have to be using this red card in cities and urban areas more than we are in rural areas. We find that increasingly concentrations of populations shifting to urban areas, which is expected to be 70% of the world's population by 2050, will result in increased violence. So UN Habitat is working significantly to try to work with local governments, with member states, with sport, with activists, with the business community to try to do four basic things. One is to look at safer cities. What are the means by which we can increase safety? How can we look at public spaces, particularly those that are vulnerable to, in which women are extremely vulnerable to violence? How can we look at public service delivery much more systematically so that we are having those services fit for purpose, not leaving women exposed, vulnerable, and in dangerous situations, particularly in the area of sanitation? And lastly, land tenure. Most women do not have access to secure tenure. They are vulnerable to violent forced evictions. They are disproportionately evicted when there are forced evictions. So addressing those, creating policy alternatives to forced evictions are some of the actions that we're trying to promote in our organization. And recently, thanks to the Secretary General, we have developed a system-wide strategy for sustainable urban development, which involves the entire UN system. This is an activity that the Secretary General refers to as a mega trend. Urban is no longer something confined to one UN agency. It is the responsibility of all agencies of the UN system. With those brief comments, I'd like to turn this over to our Executive Director, Maimunah Sharif, in her video address. Thanks very much.
Distinguished delegates, colleagues, friends, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for this opportunity to address all of you through this recorded message. I am sorry that I cannot be with you in person, but rest assured that you have my strong support. Let's work to ensure that the noble objective of the Equal Light Red Card campaign are part of UN Habitat's quest to make our cities and communities inclusive. These should be places where women and girls feel safe and have the opportunities to realize their ambitions. To ensure that our cities are safe for all, UN Habitat is working with member states and local governments to ensure that we adopt an integrated planning and design approach. We continue to work with all stakeholders through our Safer Cities and Public Space programs. As a former mayor, I know from personal experience that policy will remain an academic document if it is not followed up by plans and actions on the ground. The best action plans are those that have been developed through a participatory approach. A safer and inclusive city is often built upon gender-sensitive budgeting and planning, where we listen to women and young people to ensure that limited public resources reach the most vulnerable communities. Cities that plan to be inclusive are often the most resilient. They make space for talent to flourish, they attract capital, and they are attractive places to raise a family. They often have public spaces that are designed to enhance crime prevention, promote positive and respectful interaction between women and men, young and old, and girls and boys. We believe that we need to work with local communities to change behavior and attitudes to reduce violence against women and girls in public spaces. Innovation is also a key feature that empowers women and girls, making their perspective of the city count as much as that of men. Design thinking that is solutions-oriented help translate the needs of mothers for sidewalks that are wide enough to accommodate a stroller. Digital technology also keeps our communities connected and engaged in the design process itself. We also believe that this integrated approach is what makes for a safe, green, and clean city. This will lead to social cohesiveness and wider economic opportunities. UN Habitat's global experience has shown that piecemeal and ad hoc initiatives are not the most effective approach to combating violence against women. In May last year, at the first UN Habitat Assembly, member states adopted the UN system-wide guidelines on safer cities and human settlement and the resolution on achieving gender equality through the work of the UN Habitat to support inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable cities and human settlements. These UN system-wide guidelines allow us the opportunity to accelerate collective actions for the creation of safer cities for women and girls. I am happy to inform you that in support for the Secretary General's 2020 Decade for Action campaign, UN Habitat will roll out 40 days of accelerated advocacy campaigns to highlight innovative solutions to keep communities and cities safe. This 40 days campaign will begin on 21st of September, which marks this year's International Day of Peace, and will end on 31st October, which is World Cities Day. Once again, this campaign supports wider global efforts to reduce by 50% the rate of violent crime globally by 2030. The Equal Light Rate Cut campaign will certainly be a major boost in these endeavors. This is why UN Habitat is proud to be associated with this global launch of the Equal Light Rate Cut campaign. For individuals' awareness, mobilization, and action will make a difference. A safer city for women and girls is indeed a safer city for all. This helps to ensure that no one and no place is left behind in this rapidly urbanizing world. Thank you.